So if I can ask all the participants, and you are quite in a high number, I see 97 now, with 129 that said that would participate. So that's quite a high number. Most of the participants are European, but I also welcome the participants from Pan Am. So welcome, but also we have some Asians participants, so also very welcome to participate. So let's see if I can go now to the screen. Yes. So thank you also, Christians and the Latvian Badminton Federation, together with Gunnars, that you set up the platform again for this second webinar. Also, thanks to the members of the assessment panel that will participate today. One of them is Gunnars. We also have Ivo that has joined the meeting, but will have to leave during the meeting or during the webinar. And also Bert van Orenbeek and Iris Metspalou, who will, together with me, cover the terms of reference in the second part of this webinar. I also would like to thank the BEC office, Jimmy, who is there and who is following this second webinar. And finally, I also have seen on the list that one of the TOC members of Badminton Europe would join. Rena, also welcome tonight. Before I go further with the content, I just want to say that this webinar will be recorded, and so that you can see it afterwards on YouTube. All what is said you can use. There is no copyright on what we are giving here. In the second part, first part will be the BEC Umpires organization. So sorry for the Pan Am and Badminton Asia umpires that are following, but just giving some more explanation to the European umpires, how we are structured and how things are working. In the second part, we will do the terms of reference that you can find back also on the website of BEC. I will show you the link later on. Good, I see 100 participants. So those who come now will have to go to YouTube, I think. Let's start with the organization. It will take half an hour. 25 minutes up to half an hour, and then we go on with the terms of reference. First of all, since the beginning of this year, for those who don't know yet, there has been a technical official committee installed by the Council of Badminton Europe, a TOC that I will chair, and that has as other members the chair of major events, Rena, and the chair of circuits, it is Martin from Germany. And then you see that around this technical officials committee, you have quite a lot of groups that are working. If I start from the right side, we have the Umpire Assessment Panel. I will go more into detail in the next slide. We are 11 people, all active or no longer active Badminton World Federation certificated umpires. We also have still on paper a umpire coordinator. It's something that I started to do in 2016 because the knowledge within BEC was at that moment not too high about umpires. And so they decided to bring in a coordinator, a new coordinator, because the first coordinator was Gilles Cavert. I will still be umpire coordinator, and I will combine this so far with the chair of the TOC. Then we have a referee assessment panel of 5 members. You will see the colleagues in a few moments. Line judges, so far we don't have a line judge panel, but our intention is to also start doing something with the line judges and to group them under Badminton Europe as a official pillar. And then last but not least, without support of the BEC office, it's not possible. Jimmy is the final responsible for all what is major events and circuits, and especially for the technical officials, it's Mathieu Hecker that is helping the TOC. So thanks to them. As you can see, the TOC is immediately giving or asking approvals to the board of directors. If I go now to the assessment panel as from the beginning of this year, we are 11 persons, and a lot of people have been changed in the last years. In 2016, when I became umpire coordinator within Badminton Europe, in the group of assessors, I was the only active BWF that was left. And as such, it was not a good thing. There were also referees inside the assessment panel. And so we decided to define some criterias to get into the panel, but also when you have to leave the assessment panel. Now you can see all the names here. 3 people with a orange table around the picture. Those are the BWFs that are retired. The other ones are still all active BWF umpires. Good to know is that the 3 retired BWF umpires are still working for the BWF assessment panel, at least Carol and Malcolm, that is head of the BWF assessment panel, and Håkon Foster, who has been part of the BWF assessment panel for a long, for a lot of years, but a long time ago. So the other assessment panel are the 5 referees. You can also see that within those 5, we have 3 of the semi-professionals. Also in the umpire assessment panel, we have 2 of the semi-professional umpires that are part of. Just a few numbers. We are 181 badged umpires in Europe. That's a good number, and it's a little bit higher than other years, despite we have every year between 8 up to 10 umpires that stop umpiring or that retire. 26%, if we look into gender, are women. We started at 24%, and I think one of the aims of the umpire group in Europe must be to be at least 30% of the umpires that will be female. Also, when you look where the umpires are coming from which member associations, we went up with one member association. Zivilliers received her accreditation in Liévin at the European Championships in February, one of the last tournaments that we could run due to this unprecedented crisis of COVID-19. And so we have 37 out of the 54 member associations that have official badged European umpires. And how do we progress our umpires? Also, this is important that I explain just in a few words how that we do it. First of all, we start with a national umpire tutors and umpires workshop, level 1 to 3. I will go more into detail in the next slide. Then you all know we had the umpire course. We changed the name in February because in fact, the course was misleading some people. And now we have made of it a national umpire appraisal and a workshop. So we will appraise the level of the umpires, of those national umpires, and we will also run a workshop to explain the laws of badminton and the ITTOs. After that, you have done this appraisal, depending on the report you will receive, you can go to the accreditation assessment. Again, before going to the certification assessment, it's mandatory that you pass an appraisal again before going to your certification assessment. Again, then, from certification assessment towards the next level, the BWF umpiring, again, we will ask you to present an appraisal and to participate at an appraisal. And you can see also from certification to appraisal, you can see coaching. So we decided, and it's a pity because normally last week we would have had the European Championships in Kiev. And there we selected 8 of our certificated European umpires to participate at these European Championships that has been postponed till later in the year now, unfortunately. And so it was the aim to coach those people, to give them a personal coaching before going to an assessment. This coaching doesn't mean that the umpire will be selected to go for BWF. No, it is the assessment panel that has seen the umpire and that thinks that there is a potential in this umpire. So it will depend on how many matches you can do, how you will progress, how you will implement remarks, and then you do with it what you want, but still you have to go via an appraisal before being sent to BWF. Yeah. So it's not because you're selected for coaching that you are 100% sure to go to BWF. No, we think that you have a very good potential to reach that level, but still work will be hard. When I look now more into detail in this National Umpire Tutors workshop, I will not go too much into detail. Why have we set up this kind of workshops? Because we saw that the gap from the European umpires towards the BWF umpires was too big, and we wanted to close that gap so that from national umpiring to the international standard from Badminton Europe, that this gap would be smaller, and that from international going up Badminton Europe to BWF so that it can be more fluent in the future. So we run 3 workshops. Level 1, where we had 30 MAs participating and 39 participants, and we intend to run the next ones in 2022. What did we did with, what was the aim? Well, we explained how Badminton Europe is working or was working, the same as was what I was doing now, and also what we as assessment panel are looking at during assessments. And we did this with your national assessors. Normally, and I hope we still can run some level 2 courses this year, workshops, because there we want to do some regional network building by bringing national assessors and national umpires together in a region. I will show them on the next slide. And then on the 3rd level, what are the objectives there? Well, that a member of the assessment panel will come to your country to give you a workshop, a local workshop, and how that you can yourself within your federation optimize your structures. What I said before for this level 2, and that we wanted to start in at the Russian junior, because this level 2 will be run at junior tournaments. And I must say that, due to Corona, COVID-19, the first we had has been postponed. So it was the Russian junior, White Knights junior. So we are aiming now at the Irish junior end of August as being the first level 1. The next one for this year, so it will be region 7, that will be first. It's Håkan Foster who will be the assessor that will do that one. And then we will go to region, then I have to see which region it was. I think it was region 2. Yes, we go to the Czech Republic in November, if everything is still okay. And there the assessor that will run that workshop will be Christian Johannesson from Denmark. The other regions you will know in due time who will be the assessors that will cover that region. So the progression, the timeline for progression, because also the timeline is quite important. I already told you that we have assessments and appraisals. And before going to an assessment, you need to have an appraisal. And during this appraisal, you have 3. Those are in orange here. The National Umpire Appraisal. We are running 3 courses normally a year. We had to postpone also 1, no 2, in fact, Portugal and Croatia, we had to postpone this year, but there are still some National Umpire Appraisals and workshops planned during the European Juniors in end of October, beginning of November, and during the Scottish Open. So you will receive, you see 3 moments here of appraisal, and every time we will report in the same way. We will tell the candidate ready for immediate assessment, ready for assessment under condition, or not recommended for assessment, must attend another appraisal workshop in 2 years. What does it mean? Ready for immediate assessment. Yeah, we don't put it there just as some words. No. This means that the umpire that receives a report, immediate assessment, will be eligible in priority, and if this umpire is available, to participate at the next possible assessment, available assessment. Okay. If you receive a ready for assessment, then it's slightly different. Then you can participate at the next available if there is a spot available for you. Yeah. And for those assessments, we look that every member association has a spot, yeah, not 2, except if not possible otherwise, that there are no more candidates, or if you are the host nation organizing. It's also possible that we take into consideration gender, or that your last appraisal was almost 3 years ago, and so there is a limit, a time limit of 36 months that you can use this appraisal to go to an assessment. Okay. If you have a condition, well, it's a time condition and the number of matches. We will tell the umpire, we will want to see you back in 1 year or in 2 years, and you need a minimum of 60, 100 matches at a certain level. So at a circuit level of Badminton Europe, or at challenge tournaments, depending on what is the level that you want to reach. And not recommended, unfortunately, we have also to give sometimes not recommended, and then you have to come back to an appraisal. Once you are accredited and you want to go for certification, it will be minimum 1 year before that you can participate at an appraisal before going to your certification assessment. Yeah. So after your accreditation assessment, it's minimum 1 year. For the BEC assessment, you go through the certification, again an appraisal to BWF, and I will show you on the next slide which possibilities there are. Every time you got an appraisal, the report, the general report, will be sent to your member association, and from the assessors you will receive a detailed report. It will be an oral report, an oral debriefing that you will receive from your assessors. Yeah. Assessors will always be minimum 2. yeah, to guarantee the objectiveness. And in the report, we will evaluate knowledge of the laws. So you will have, for every appraisal or every assessment, there will be a written test. During an appraisal, it will be a training test. During an assessment, it will be not a training test, it will be a test for real. And that will also count in the final decision. If you don't pass the written test, you will not pass the assessment either. In an appraisal, it's slightly different. If you don't pass the test, you will be put down in this ranking. You can go from 2 up to 3, for example. And one of the conditions can be need to know better the laws of badminton. What else do we evaluate? Presentation, match control, decision-making, court management, feeling for the game and contact with players, and contact with stakeholders. So referee team, organization, it's also one of the terms of reference, number 21, that we will discuss later on. So timeline for progressions. If we are talking about assessments, you see that between 2 assessments, you need minimum 2 years. If you want to go from the accreditation to the certification, it's a minimum of 2 years. And the BEC office is looking into this before sending a list with possible nominees for an assessment. I already said this before, from certification to BWF, also, depending, it is possible, it's minimum 2 years, but it's possible that some of you, and I think some of them are online, I think Stéphane Venet is online. Stéphane Venet did a very good certificated European assessment, and the assessors present said he was almost ready to go to the BWF accreditation. Yeah, and so Stéphane was eligible within 2 years, in less than 2 years, to go forward to the BWF assessment without doing an appraisal. So it's the only exception that you can have to go from the certification assessment towards the BWF assessment. It's that you have been put as a fast track, and that you have in fact already the level higher than certificated European. For those who don't receive this fast track, and only 3 have received it so far, so that's not a lot. We have a 100% pass for those 3 fast tracks. Well, they have to come to an appraisal, and now we also introducing this personal coaching. Yeah, but you can see that the part of personal coaching is before the appraisal. Okay, so don't understand me wrong. We see that those people have a potential in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, maybe. Yeah, and every assessment that we will do, an appraisal, we will again put people into the coaching group or not. Okay. When we look, yeah, this was it, the appraisals and the assessments. So I think I'm already gone through my slides. I said 25 minutes. Well, it was 20 minutes to explain really very quickly how Badminton Europe is organized for the umpires. Yeah, we also have a similar structure for the referees, but we will not cover this during this webinar. So, are there questions on this first part?
There was a question from Bulgaria, I remember, but maybe Iris was already answered it. So it's too many information in our chat group. Maybe we can find one. So it was Alex from Bulgaria.
Yes, Alex. Can you put on your camera, please? And Castillo, Generoso, can you put off your camera, please?
So the question from Alex was about just question for later. Is the test or assessment also as a appraisal test with a time limit?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, ciao.
Hello, Alexander.
I just because I know that at the appraisal tests there is this time limit and this ranking for the participants that even if someone got the wrong answer but quicker, you know, the system that you use for the tests, do you use it also for the assessments, or is
No.
it?
No, so what you are referring to is the Kahoot that we used during the workshop. And so there it is indeed, if you answer quicker than another one, you have more points. No, when we are doing written training tests, it will be effectively 1 hour for the accreditation assessment. When we are doing a written training test appraisal towards the certification, it will be 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. And the written test for the certification is 2 hours. So we all decided this last February, and I'm writing a booklet to make all this clear to you, and so that those slides can be written out into a plain text, that it would be more clear to you what you can expect at what moment. Thank you, Alexander.
Yes.
Yes, Castillo.
Okay, Sven, could an umpire from America get an accreditation in Badminton Europe?
Yes, we have an example. Bruno Rodriguez from Brazil, Pan Am,
Okay, I know him.
who came to Europe to live here. But also we have Kamasha Robertson in my own country, in Belgium. Kamasha and
I know
Bruno,
Kamasha too.
yeah, have both their Pan Am badges, and so we decided in Europe to take the same value of the badge in Europe. So Bruno is BEC certificated and Kamasha is BWF accredited for Badminton Europe. Yes, I think this is a trust.
Okay, what kind of procedure do you do? Do you do the price? The price?
No.
Do you do the?
No. We trust the other continent and the other appraisals and assessors from the continent, that they do the good job, and that's why we also have assessment panel workshop. We had one last month in All England, Birmingham, just to cope with this, that we would appraise on the same level. So yes.
Okay, I mean, do you have any level workshops, special workshops? So maybe some umpires would like to share experiences with your umpires. Do you have any international level workshops like that, where we can send some umpires over there to a weekend or week workshop to level the experience and the knowledge? Have you designed something like that? No. Do you understand what I asked?
Yes, but you are referring to Gunnar's, but I will take that one.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Gunnar's. No, we haven't thought about this, because in all what we are doing in appraisals, it's quite already. We don't have a lot of spots or enough spots available for our own European umpires. What we do is an exchange program for certificated umpires within the Pan Am, Badminton Asia, Badminton Africa, and Badminton Europe, to bring them to the BWF sanctioned events, and so that they can gain experience, because it's important that they gain experience. But also this is one of the points that will be discussed at the BWF TUC in May, so next month, how we could make it easier to do. Yeah.
receive that information. And maybe my last question will be, would it be possible to have one of you in a special workshop organized in our country, for example? Could we make a special invitation, and this could be certified by Badminton Panam and by Badminton Europe? So maybe this group could be at least not certified, but accredited, or at least they will have a degree that they are into the process to become an international umpire.
All depends at what level that you want to do it. If you want to do it at the accredited PANAM or at the certificated PANAM, because also the BWF assessment panel can send assessors to PANAM. So I think it should be good if PANAM raises this question at the BWF TOC. Yeah.
Yes, you know that in our countries, maybe to your countries, it's the same. When you bring a new face, this new face, everybody attends more. Yeah. Everybody. I mean,
it's the same. So it's the same with children, eh? Yeah. As a dad or mom, you can say to your children, "You cannot do it," and they do it. But then you ask an uncle or a neighbor to say, "Hey, this is not really smart," and then they stop doing it. So it all depends. I did a course in Italy, and I see that quite a lot of the participants are Carbine and Julia, at least they were at this course, specific Italian course, and so it worked well. But I propose, Castillo, if you have other questions, that you can we can have another separate call about this, yes, and that we can continue now with the agenda.
Okay.
This was the second part. Thanks for your questions. Second part, terms of reference. So as said, I will not do this alone. I was talking for half an hour now. We will do this with 3 people. We prepared. Gunnars did the first workshop. He did a lot of work there. He will intervene certainly when he has something more to add. So I prepared this with Bert van Horenbeek, who we can see now in the 3rd screen. And we also have Iris, but Iris, I can't see your screen so far.
At least she must speak, then we will.
Yeah. See. Bert will take the first 7 items. Iris will take item or terms of reference 8 till 14, and I will cover the last items. Just to mention, and I put it here on top, the terms of reference have been added also, and I will open it now, at our Badminton Europe website. When you go under the technical officials, umpires, you can find here the terms of reference. Process for nominations, some recommendations, and then you can find back the 21 terms of reference for the first international level accreditation, and then what we want to see for the certification. We will not cover today, because the time is too short, the 9 terms of reference of the certificated umpires. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Sven, I'm here. Can you see me now?
Yes, but now Bert is gone for me.
Oh, I'll keep talking then.
Okay, Castillo, can you cut off your camera, please?
No, there is nothing.
Thank you. Okay, wrong. So now I can see Bert, Iris, and Gunnars. Ivo is also participating, but we have we have also some videos from Ivo. So you will see him at work. So, Bert, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Sven, and good evening to everyone. Well, to start with is the most sexy term of reference. That's the first one, which is about reading the laws. This is what we like to do, of course, every day of our life. But apparently it's still some sort of a problem to read them as much and when. That's a good rule of thumb I think you should read, especially when traveling to a tournament, after an incident, a particular article, and after the tournament to sum up, because you always have new experiences and you need to relate them to the laws of badminton that have to be applied. Because changing experiences most of the time also affects the way you read a certain rule. So it's not only when you're up for a written assessment that you need to read the laws, you need to read them as much as possible. I could refer to a other assessor who is not here in the webinar, which is our good friend from England, Malcolm Benham. He has a booklet of the laws of badminton at the side of his toilet. So every time he goes to the toilet, there are the laws of badminton. 2 minutes, 3 minutes read. It doesn't mean you need to read the laws all over the whole time. Sometimes just one article. And that keeps the memory fresh, and reading and rereading makes you understand it better and better every time. Also, use all the tools. There's now a log published by BWF that helps you keeping track of all the changes. There's cocktails. Maybe you have other newsletters in your own country. They all help to keep aware of everything that has changed and keep yourself up to date. But yeah, it's a certain discipline that has to be built in. It's not that we go out and umpire every day. So yes, our memory does fade and we need to read those rules and ITTOs again. Okay. And of course, also discuss and reflect those rules with others. And you can do that with your international colleagues. You can do that in your own country. But discussing those laws is important as well, because that will probably show to you that for certain rules or laws, you might misinterpret that particular one, and bring in another angle, another point of view also changes your point of view. So that's some basic or ground rules on getting a better knowledge of laws of badminton. And of course, if you have a question, you can always send an email to the assessment team. We are supposed to be able to answer those questions. Or in case it's a really smart or very tricky question, those questions are sometimes also forwarded to BWF and might even create a big discussion over there. So that's not new. So please try and get us in a discussion about laws of badminton. Nothing more to say about that, I think. So we can go on to the second one, showing a good command of English in order to be able to communicate with players on court. That's about talking English. It's about expanding your vocabulary. You can only do that by talking as much as possible in English. Do it with your colleagues, and especially with fellow countrymen if you're at an international tournament. That's one of the mistakes or faults that we see happen, that people start talking in their own language, even at international tournaments. Keep trying to talk in English. That's the way you get better at it. And that's the way you can expand your vocabulary. So this makes you much more at ease when you have short conversations with players. You can also, of course, watch television, read books in the original English language. And that's again to extend your vocabulary. This webinar is a good tool as well. So yes, take advantage of it. Now, expanding your English doesn't mean you need to show off on court. Keep the communication clear and simple. When we talk about sports entertainment, that doesn't mean that the umpire has to use Shakespeare. The entertainment part is reserved for the players on court. That's not our part. That message has to be clear. You keep it in short, understandable words. It doesn't need to be, once again, Shakespeare. I think that's basically clear for everyone. So if no questions asked, I can move on to number 3. Maybe one remark on the side. Of course, terms of reference, we can't cover everything in 1.5 hours or 1 hour. So the basic idea is to try to give you another angle or another view on what this rule means, to extend your view, because we won't be able to cover everything per term of reference. All right. Then attend all briefings as required and complete all assigned duties. Is Carmen in the webinar, yes or no? I haven't seen her. Otherwise, we could ask a BWF referee what the influence.
Arthur there? Is
Carmen?
Arthur there? Arthur Luzny. He was in a list, but I don't know if he's.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Iris. Hi, guys. This is Arthur. I'm here.
Hi, Juan.
Hello, Arthur. Well, Arthur, you're also a BWF referee. What's the impression umpire makes when they are late for a briefing? What does that do with the referee concerning that particular umpire?
Well, I guess you don't need to be a BWF referee to become disappointed about this umpire. And this is just the phase 1. But overall, I guess all the referees expect. Okay, let me switch on my video. I don't know if you guys see me now.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, all the referees expect umpires to understand that organizing a tournament is a great effort from a lot of people. And when part of those people are not performing, being late, not respecting the time of others, then this creates mess. And the bigger is the tournament, the more important it is to be punctual, to be on time. And of course, there is no way the referee can count on the umpire in the later stages of the tournament if that umpire did not perform well in the beginning of the tournament.
All right, thank you, Arthur. There's also another reason why you should be on time, because the referee is a very busy person. He can't have separate briefings for every umpire who's too late. That's why we all come together, by the way. And there's another important reason for you personally. This is the moment where the referee will share all the things that are different compared to other tournaments. Those are the things that make it interesting. Those are the points you need to take with you during the rest of the tournament. Being late for that makes you missing out on those. So yes, briefings are important. And yes, a lot of things sound like repetition, but sometimes we need that as well. So yes, it is a moment of paying attention. And of course, also complete all the assigned duties, because it's not always only about umpiring or service judging. Sometimes you can have other duties as well. It used to be the IRS, or sometimes they will ask you to check on clothing. And everyone knows the example where you as a service judge are asked to check the clothing of the players because the umpire for your match is still on court being a service judge from the previous match. That's also a duty you need to accomplish. So check on that as well. Be aware that might be that other things are asked as well. There's nothing as bad as somebody not showing up for something he was asked to do. That's the same as being too late for a briefing, basically. Not good. No questions about that?
I've got some, not a question, but some example of this, two examples, in fact. The first one happens at a BWF assessment, where the umpire has an IRS duty, but doesn't show up for the IRS duty, is sitting in the stands, and the referee has to take this umpire out of the stand. So it was, I can assure you that it was not in favor of the final result of this umpire. I also have an example, what happened at German Open, where a umpire is too late for the briefing and the referee says, well, you're too late. Thank you very much. Your tournament is over. So I don't know if it will always be as blunt as those two examples I gave to you. It's something that we need to speak about with the assessors together with the referees, but be in time. Yeah, and it can happen if that you are out of the tournament due to this fact, and then you can say, hey, come on, no, that's the way it is. And if I speak about other assigned duties, and for those who were at the European Championships in Liévin in France, the umpire had to push a button when the service started and when the rally ended to stopwatch the time of the rally. So this was an additional duty for the umpire. It's a perfect example. If you have an additional duty and an assigned duty, yeah, most of the time you need to adapt yourself. And so it's not always easy because it's going out of your comfort zone, what we do as an umpire. So that's why we try to limit as much as possible those assigned duties. Yes, Bert.
Okay, maybe just one remark that I saw in the chat is about showing up in uniform. There's a new BWF instruction for the BWF umpires that even at the first briefing, we should show up in the leisure uniform of BWF. So yes, it is about being present in correct clothing. Of course, this doesn't exist for BE officials, but you know the direction we're going at. So even there's a shift. It might come for BE as well, but not at the moment. Any other briefing, yes, it is appreciated that everyone is already in a uniform, doesn't start changing afterwards. Briefings are a formal moment that take part of the tournament. Okay.
Right. There was a question, not in the chat, but directly sent to me. How many questions umpire is allowed to ask during the briefing?
Well, it's also most of the time the questions are a show of involvement, but also of intelligence. So it's the gamble you have to take as an umpire. But if somebody is asking more than 5 questions, most of the time you see already the reaction of all the other colleagues on what they think about it. If you need to ask that many things, probably you still need to pick on a little bit more experience. It's not a bad point to pick up experience. So yes, feel free, but probably the referee will stop at a certain moment. He again has other duties to attend as well.
Thank you.
But there's no official limit on the number of questions you can ask, okay?
But this is also one of the terms of reference of number 21, work as a team off court. Yeah. So you will not bother your colleagues with your personal questions. Yeah. If those questions are for the whole group, well, shoot. If this is a personal question because you doubt about something, well, when the briefing is finished, ask it to your at your colleagues, and it will be okay. Yeah. So this is also a good example of that.
And I think good point you mentioned, Sven.
All right. Anything else on point number 3? If not, then we can move on to number 4. Be consistent in the correct interpretation application of the laws of badminton and ITTO. Consistency is, of course, of very big importance, not only you within your own umpiring, but as a group. If we don't all show up in the same way, we don't do the same things, and we start making different decisions, that's basically one of the biggest things that makes coaches and players unhappy. So let's agree to do the same things. If a shuttle is out, then it's out for everyone. That's a very obvious rule. But there are, of course, other rules that tend to be applied sometimes differently. And what we also see is that things change during a match. But nevertheless, a rule that has to be applied at the start of a game is still that same rule at the end of the match. There's nothing in the laws of badminton that says, well, this rule applies, but at the end of a game, it's different. So yes, be consistent in making that decision. That's especially also for service faults. It's 115. It's not 115 from the left and 116 from the right. Again, try to find that consistency. And be critical towards yourself on that point. Once in a while, ask yourself if you're still consistent. Be aware of that. Okay. Nobody wants to fill in, then I will continue.
Bert, maybe for number 5, I show a
yes.
video.
Yes.
It's.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So what Ivo is doing here, I will cover that in point 7 as well about the voice. But what Ivo is doing here, which is very important, is...
Bert, sorry.
Yes.
Was it possible to hear or not?
No.
Okay, then.
So we're just continuing. So
okay.
What Ivo is doing here is actually really presenting the players to the audience. It's not a quick thing we have to do. It's the moment where you draw the attention to your court, where you make clear, like, this is the match where it's going to happen. And you do that, first of all, by memorizing the names. Make the names familiar. Do not read them from your score sheet or your tab. That looks very, very bad. The example I like to give during courses is when you look at the men's singles final of Wimbledon in tennis, and where the chair umpire will announce the match, and he will say, ladies and gentlemen, on my right. And then he will look down and he says, Roger Federer, Switzerland. And then on my left, Rafael Nadal, Spain. That doesn't look good. So in the presentation, you should be able to look at the player that you're also pointing at. It's also part of establishing working relationships with everyone on your court, including the players. If you look at them, you make clear that you know them. You already make eye contact. And they can look back at you and they can have two reactions. They can go like, oh, he knows me. Or he can also have the reaction, oh shit, he knows me. But that's what you're doing. You're opening up the communication lines with them. You're presenting the game. So familiarize the names, also the difficult ones. And if you're not sure, quite a lot of times you will have a colleague umpire from the same country as the player, where you can check how to pronounce the name. Now, we are not judging everyone on being 100% correct, but of course it should be close to what it is that actually people understand who is on the court. So that's about demonstration. Yes.
I like one of the advices you gave me many years ago, and you said, with announcement, you have to sell the match, something that was the idea behind. So that's your part, let's say, at the beginning.
Yes, but if you remember correctly, I also said it's about selling the game. It's not like announcing a boxing match where you go like, and in the right corner. No, that's over the top. That's over the top. But yes, you can put in some extra intonation in your voice. Okay. All right. I would love to jump to point 7 in connection to demonstrate a good introduction. But first of all, there's also meeting with the players on court when you're waiting for them. Don't be a robot. I know that nerves get to us at that moment, because that's the moment where most of the people are actually watching us. And we're not that important, so we don't like doing that sometimes. But don't block, don't become a robot. Try to be as natural as possible. It's like shaking hands with family and friends. That's the way you do that on court. Of course, you don't start hugging them, but keep it very loose, keep it relaxed. This is where everyone gets together, where everyone is still happy and smiling. Nobody has lost anything yet, except for the toss, but that's not so dramatic. So keep that loose. Be nice to each other, but don't become friends. I mean, you're still an umpire, they're still the players. Okay. Anything else to add for anyone? Then I will jump to point 7 in this particular case, because it's also presentation is about the voice. And of course, we need to be able to present the match not only to players, but also to the audience. And in most cases, when microphones are not available, that means we have to be louder than usual. It's not only about loudness of the voice, it's also about having pauses in your announcement. Another thing we see a lot during the original opening announcement, umpires are nervous and they're doing it way too fast. When you're talking too fast, it gets lost. You can't understand anything. If you go, ladies and gentlemen, on my right, Sven Ray, Belgium, well, there's a lot of noise, but I don't know who you're talking about. So it's more like, ladies and gentlemen, on my right, Sven Ray, Belgium. If you do that loudly and you cut it up, people will still be able to understand it. So that's very important. The other thing which is important, we see especially men, a lot of them start talking when they start talking louder to go back in their throat. They're like here talking. This blocks actually the throat and makes it a lot more difficult to push enough air through it and tires your voice a lot easier. You have to try to project the words in front of your mouth and also create the noise as much as possible in the forward part of your mouth. This is what makes you louder. It's not talking like this. It makes sounds like you maybe are a lot sexier. I don't know. I still don't know why people do that, but that's not the way of working. The other thing is, especially when people are still looking at their score pad or their score sheet, they're looking down. And by looking down, they will lock up their voice, again, making it more difficult to be loud. On the other hand, to compensate that, people start to lift up their chin to make it louder, to speak into the stadium. Lifting up your chin always creates an idea of arrogance, because you're putting up your chin and looking down at people. Try to avoid that as well. This is very difficult to be aware of, because of course I'm exaggerating. It's only a little bit that people lift their chin. Check that on YouTube. Look at yourself. And then you will be aware that you need to do something about it if necessary. So those are the few things about announcement and using your voice. Using your voice is also an extra tool in making something clear without being officious. Because intonation can make a lot clearer. It's like body language. If I just talk like this, nobody notices anything different in my attitude. But if I start talking like this, all of a sudden everyone understood there's a problem. So you can use that as well without starting talking about cards or warning. Just by changing the attitude of your voice makes a lot clearer. This is something you can play with. Of course, again, it's not Shakespeare, it's not a boxing match, so you can't go all the way, because then you're overacting and that doesn't work as well.
Bert?
Yes.
There was a question in chat regarding the previous topic. Like David Bachman saw in YouTube that in doubles, the umpire pointed to every player where they stand.
No, you don't need to do that. You need to point out the right side and the left side. You don't need to point at every player individually. The way you introduce a match, you first introduce the two sides, so people know who's on the right side and who's on the left side. Yes, indeed, they don't know yet who from the two players is which one, but that will come by announcing the serving line, because you will say this player will serve to that player, and by that they also know how to identify the two separate players. So the separate pointing out on different players is not necessary, okay? And then you start moving a little bit too much. You're not a marshaller at an airport where you need to do this and that to show planes where they have to go, okay?
Okay.
All right. Voice is also a muscle. A muscle can be trained. If you keep talking like this, then you will never get the strength to talk a lot louder. So yes, you have to try to talk louder every time. And it also creates another attitude. If you talk consistently very loud, it means that people will also hear your mistakes. If everyone can hear them, you will definitely try not to make as much mistakes. It's a very simple trick, and it helped me. So maybe it can help someone of you as well. Right, that's voice. Of course, microphone, one very important thing. Most of the time, yes, we will work with headsets. In certain occasions, there's still a fixed microphone. With a fixed microphone, don't forget you can't move your head. Because if you're announcing with a fixed microphone, turning your head, you will go like, ladies and gentlemen, and you go like, and every time you go away from the microphone, they can't hear you anymore. It's still one that is easily forgotten. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Bert. Any questions?
I still have 0.6.
Yeah,
I jumped from 5 to 7. Sorry, Sven. Then show the ability to work well as a team and protect at all times the other technical officials on court. I'll try to keep it short. Again, it's about establishing working relationships, not only with your service judge, but also with line judges. Most of the time you see umpires showing up, going on court with line judges, and then they look at line judges when they make noise, and the rest of the time they don't exist. That's not a working relationship. Don't expect them to work for you if you don't know about them outside the calls. So at the lineup, but also during knockup, you have time to look around, make eye contact, make them aware that you're looking at them. Also during rallies, you can already look at somebody who needs to mop the floor just to check whether he's aware of the fact that he needs to go on court once the rally has finished. That's something you need to work on, because the better relationships you have, the quicker the reactions are, the less time we lose. When we're talking about delay a little bit later, there's also delay that is caused by technical officials. So yes, establish those working relationships and make it more fluently. Another important thing is, as a colleague, we tend to cover for our other colleagues. This is not always protecting them. If your umpire makes a major mistake, don't sit there as a service just like, I don't know, nothing, no, this is not protecting your umpire. If you're not helping him, he will go flat on his face. So covering his ass is not the same as protecting him. You take care of him, so you will walk over if necessary to make clear that he has made a major mistake while he can still correct it. Don't come off court afterwards saying, yes, I've tried. I've waved with my hand. No, don't try. You have to make it clear that the mistake is there. Now, of course, there's a big danger in that. That's when you think you're right and he's wrong, and it turns out that you're wrong anyway. So it's a bit the same as overruling a line judge. It has to be beyond reasonable doubt that there's a mistake being made. If not, if you're not sure, it's the same as with players. If they make a fault and you're not sure, it's in the advantage of them. Well, let's keep that as a rule of thumb for you and your colleagues as well. Okay.
Bert, maybe just a word about the major mistake. So it must be obvious, okay? The shuttle is falling 30 centimeters out. The line judge is giving in, and the service judge is also, and the umpire is also giving in. And there is a big discussion on court. Yeah, so this is really, really, really obvious, but not when there is a net fault that maybe has not been seen by the umpire because it was really so close and just about a few millimeters. So please don't intervene on those ones. Yeah, it must be major and it must be obvious. Okay, and so when you are talking about 1 centimeter, it's not major and it's not obvious. Good.
All right, I've just seen the question passing where the service judge should stand up. This has been a new thing in the ITTOs since the incident in 2016 in China, where it is said that you can go to the other side and talk to the umpire. So this also has been covered in cocktails.
But it's again major. It's not something small happening. Right? Okay. Good. First 7. Any question? We can take one more question before going to the next bunch of 7 terms of reference. In the meantime, I've sent the presentation to Christians from the Latvian Badminton Federation, so that when we have another link coming up, an important link, he will prepare it so that the sound will be there. No questions? Yes, Christians, please show this one. But I can't hear anything. Can you hear something?
No.
This video has no sound.
Well, when I listen it here on my computer, it has sound, but...
I think it's the same problem. I also try, but without sound.
Probably Ivo we can try to ask Ivo if he can dub over this.
Yes.
Yes, maybe Ivo has the link, he can push it forward. Okay, I take the screen again, Christians. So we move to the next ones. A to 14, use a correct vocabulary at all times. The link, you don't have to open it. Iris, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me right? Because I was told I wasn't very clear earlier. Okay, use the correct vocabulary at all times. That is said in ITTO as well, but this is also said that this is the list given is not exhaustive. That means that if you really need, do use your own words if that is needed to make yourself clear. So please be really clear with your announcements and with the presentation, but please do not just be limited by the list that is given in our vocabulary. Vocabulary has grown a lot lately, And we had to learn a lot of new things to explain people in certain ways. But many of us have done this more than decades, so we definitely will have our own things that we are used to say and what we are really, really used to. So please don't get stumbled by that and don't get worried that you used all of a sudden some other words to explain a player what do you need from them. The most clear thing is to make yourself clear and to make yourself understandable, and the player knows what you want from them. Also, the audience knows what is going on. And also, let's say if you are not that fluent in English, then you can express yourself and you can tell what do you expect. What else to say? Do not use too complicated language if you don't use the vocabulary. Meaning, again, like Bert earlier said, no English literature, Shakespeare vocabulary needed, because the player coming from a country where the English learning possibilities are maybe limited, they cannot understand you. You can use even some hand signals to make yourself clear. Just be sure you are understood. It will really, really help you prevent any other situations coming on, and it can grow to a bigger major issue if you are not clear to everyone else around you, because you are one of those on court and there are many so-called players with you. There's your team, there's sometimes TV, there's audience, there's players, and also your good colleague in front of you in service judge's chair, and they don't want to look at you with big eyes, looking at you, what are you talking about? But with announcements, with the presentation, please use the standard vocabulary, because as I've heard so many times, an older umpire saying after the match, game over, it's more like some kind of computer game where it finally tells you game over. No, it's just the game, and then everyone knows that this has been the game. So what else? Some situations, if it needs to be really, really clear. Myself, I've used a sentence saying, "Gentlemen, badminton only." That was used to take the tense off from two men's doubles who were really, really trying to play all the other games besides badminton in there. They were trying to get on each other's nerves, trying from every angle. So this is not the thing that we need. So I needed to say that, everyone understood. They went back to the badminton again. So sometimes you need to say something else that is stated in the vocabulary. I think we covered that. No questions there. Be competent in the use of electronic scoring systems and know all their facilities is number 2. Normally, before the tournament, we have the possibility to get to know the local or whatever possibility that this tournament has, whether it's the score sheet on a paper, whether it's some kind of button that you push to get those numbers visible for audience, or is it some kind of scoring device. Those are many. Those are the Netherlands system, Lithuanian system. There's also some apps used. I've heard something is in, I think it was in Ireland, some other one. So get yourself acquainted to the certain system. Mostly used one, that is Badminton Europe mostly using, and also BWF is using. This is also, you can check on that one also at the statues website, or these things that you can find in BWF sources as well. So if you have questions, please ask your colleagues, please ask the person responsible for the scoring devices and systems at the tournament, because if you sit there and you don't know or you don't dare to push any button, it looks really, really bad on you, because people start to think, are you doing this first time ever? Okay, you might do this first time ever with this system, but this will really give players also fair ground to look at you as a really incompetent umpire. So be cautious with that one and really try to avoid it. That means there's more buttons than just the numbers. There's all these features where you all of a sudden where you have to give the warning, or you have to come up with a button for you have to mark that the referee was on court or there was an injury. So you need to know how to do that. Can you do that? Can you put that on the system at all? Then on multi-games, quite often there's all different from the things that you have seen before. Last European Games, we had a system writer who was really surprised when he heard that you can give more than one red card to a player or a side. He was really laughing about it. We said, no, you can give a lot of red cards. So there has to be a feature to give those. So he had to change something in the program. So these things can happen and you have to know. So that tablet had like a dozen of buttons. So you need to know what button, what it does to and how you can correct yourself. This is the most important thing. Make sure you know how you can correct any mistake that you make in there. Because if you push the wrong button and something falls apart, you need to get back to your game and you need to know how to correct it. So what else? Also, the letters that I mentioned before, in most of the systems, there's 7 single letters that you can use. Are you all familiar with those? I hope so. There's R, I, S, W, O, and F. And plus, we have RET as retirement and disqualified. Those are the things that you should actually put on your score sheet or in the system, in the tablet. Not all tablets or systems are actually capable of doing that. So later on, you need to know where this certain situation happened. So be aware. Also, with the tablets, if all of a sudden the tablet gives in on you, you cannot work on it, it just dies on you. You need to be able to go back on a paper. That's why we always have a paper with us, and we need to know the score. So please be aware what is going on in your match, that you can go back to the score and you do remember who won the first game, let's say, in the match, and what was the score. Always your service judge can help you, but you should know that as well. Adaption, again, the thing that Sven mentioned earlier, we had in Eleven, we had an extra button, an extra duty, a little bit annoying because everyone was not used to it and everyone dealt it with different way. So some people could adapt to it way better than the others because this was something extra. And this was something, again, that we are not used to. But this is what we do. We are umpires. We adapt. We need to adapt all these different venues, all these different scoring devices, systems, chairs, because some of the chairs are not so comfortable. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are so nice that you can sleep in them. So we adapt. That's what we do also with the scoring devices. And again, with the microphone, you know that most of the devices have microphone on them. So be aware what you are saying and how you say it and when you say it. Again, use standard vocabulary. Also know what these buttons on your tablet are doing. Questions? Besides the BWF level 2 umpire manual? No. Number 10, a tip. A tip from Jim. Always write each game score on your score sheet when the game is over. If the pad fails in game 3, you are not pressured to try to remember the score. It's a really good one, and it's the good one especially on the tournaments, on venues where you know that there has been some failures of the systems, power failures, some problems with the cabling, whatever. Sometimes you know. In one of the tournaments, I kept 2. I had a score sheet next to my tablet because the tablet program, again, was not made by badminton people. So it didn't never show me which sides should serve and which sides should receive. So I had to keep my paper score sheet next to it to be sure who has to serve and who has to receive. So this is also something you need to do sometimes, but I needed to do the tablet as well because the audience saw only the outcome on the screens that came from my tablet. So sometimes you do both, but this is really good one. Are we going to number 10? If required, show the ability to complete the score sheet correctly and where appropriate, cannot say the word, appropriate, is it? No, notes for warning, faults, and so on. That is what I said already earlier, that you need to keep in mind that everything is possible, that it can fail you. The machines can fail you. So you need to know how to fill the score sheet on the paper. You need to know what to write. And if you don't have time, because you don't have the time to tell the players that, hold on, I need to fill the 2 previous games and then we go on. No, you do it later on, but please be aware what you're writing, when and where. So you know how to go on with it. And again, know those letters that I mentioned earlier. Also, you need to put on a paper, you need to put there some comments on warnings, on injuries, on retirements, but no long stories, no tales, no nothing like that. Just only the facts. Who retired, who was injured, what was the score, what was the time spent when the referee was on court, or whatever is needed, but it has to be short and correct. Normally, referee wants us to write this on the front side of the score sheet. That is why when you are doing a photocopy of that score sheet, then everything, all the information is on side, so you don't need to do the both sides. So this is why we use the front sheet. So you don't have too much room in there anyway, so make it short, make it clear. Again, something that was mentioned by Bert earlier, not in here, but we had a discussion about it. Him being also at the national level a referee, that quite often when there's injury occurred on court, there's only one letter on the score sheet or pushed in a tablet. That is only one letter, but should be at least 2, because there's injury. That means that you normally ask for a referee. That means there should be an I and there should be an R. The sequence of it is still questionable because it's argued a lot about it, whether you call a referee first or you put the injury in first. But in my personal opinion, injury occurs first, so you put an I first, because you don't call a referee just because someone is saying ow or something, or jumping on one foot only.
Maybe it's interesting to have Arthur's
yeah, I would love to know
idea.
that.
Arthur, you're still with us.
Also, I could see Dodo flashing in one moment.
Yes, Dodo is also a good option. Dodo, can you answer this one?
Speak up, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
What is your opinion? Which letter has to be first?
I think it's the same. My opinion is the same as yours. I think first it should be an injury and then referee who comes on court or a doctor or whatever. So what comes first, it's more important. But never mind. On the end, I think it's important that it's there and that we can follow it and everybody can follow this. So, but yes, logical would be, as you said, first, what happened first and then the next thing. Yeah,
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Dodo.
welcome. Welcome.
Exactly, but it's good.
I'm just going to Christian's for number 11. Would it be possible to try to put on the video?
I will try. I will try.
Yes, thank you. So be capable of dealing with delay of play without being officious. Ivo, I don't know if you're there, but you can back up Iris on that one. I think this is quite a good example of handling delay of play, but Iris, floor is yours. And Ivo, I don't know if you're online. You can cover both this item.
Are you there, Ivo?
I'm here, yes, but I just have another call. It's a bit difficult.
Okay, I'll try to cover you. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
What we saw here was really one of the classical cases that they tried to take too much time. Just like the commentator said, it has just passed an hour margin, that the match has been for 1 hour already, so everyone is tired. It's a third deciding game, so they try to take as much time as they can. The sliding on the floor, which was not necessary so long, but this was one of the samples. Then the mopping the floor, then asking whether the shuttle is good enough from the opponent because the opponent was about to serve. Then taking a little bit too much time, making yourself ready, wiping the sweat from your face, talking to your player with your partner, everything. It took too many minutes, too many seconds, and then the opponent already got impatient, and that's why they served before the other one was ready. Although this is also making a little bit of extra delay, but what I saw, Ivo dealt it with it really good, saying, just not being officious, just saying, please don't take that much time, be ready quicker, and let's play badminton here. So this is one of the samples that is really good. You don't have to flash with your cards right away. You need to tell them first, what do you expect from them? Where is your limit? They need to know where is your limit. And where is the limit actually? It depends on umpire quite often. And that's why we were saying earlier, you have to be consistent. That is meaning that we all should be consistent, that delay is something that we don't really like, that we really deal with, and that we are trying to keep that as minimum as possible. So, but please be patient with players because they are really having a really long matches out there and they are trying to give their best as well. Just tell them what you expect from them, and they will come back on a halfway and meet you in a halfway and act nicely, and you will have a really nice and fluent match if you really help them also. not being too officious, not hurrying too much, because I've heard, I don't know if it's a true story or not, but I have heard that once a player asked from an umpire, why are you rushing us so much? Do you need to be somewhere else? So this is not good as well. If you rush a player too much, that means that you are impatient. You are putting yourself into that point where you don't have anywhere to back up. So you need to start warning them. You need to get angry. You need to get really, really pushing them. So don't push them too much. Play, but do not let the delay be there. But you have to be proactive from the very beginning of the match. And you have to make them clear where is the limit.
Okay, thank you. Just a small break because we are in 1 hour and a half. So Christians, can we continue, or do you prefer that we set up another webinar to continue with 12 till 21?
I think we must ask audience. From my point of view, we can continue because we have 2 slides more, yes? Left.
Yeah, but there are quite a lot of points to explain, but yeah.
I think we can continue because at least we have still 98 participants.
Okay. So that's a good point about focus. I will be a bit quicker on the 7 last ones. Okay, Iris?
Okay.
Number 12.
I try to be more, yeah, I just wanted to say something in the end of 11 again. Don't threaten the players that next time there's a warning, because then you really have to give one. So be careful with that one as well. If you say to player or the side that next time it is a warning, then you really have to warn them and you cannot go back. So be careful with that one. Number 12, show ability to handle confrontational situation on court. This is pretty much like I explained a little bit earlier, but that means also that you are even more alert and you know you are proactive. You know that something can go wrong. If you can see that one of the players is coming way too close to the net, looking to the opponent with way too big eyes and a little bit his fists are already raising in there, be careful, pay attention, and try to finish that in that moment that you can see that it might happen. Because you cannot jump down from the chair if really something happened like it happened in Canada when 2 players were chasing each other all over the venue. So you cannot do anything then, but you can stop it earlier. So be alert, stay focused, and really try to stop it earlier. So number 13, be consistent in identifying and call all types of faults and lets. Be consistent. That is what we have said several times already. But to be consistent, you need to know the faults and lets. That's why you need to know the laws, you need to know the ITTOs, you need to know where you are standing. Every time you call a fault or you call a let, you'll be better be able to explain it, what happened. Because if they come to you, why did you say that? Then you need to know what to explain, what to tell them, because otherwise it's you're just saying something and no one will believe you and no one will care whatever you said, and there will be problem. Referee will be called, and then you have to explain to referee what happened, but referee has to know also what was going on. Why the hell did you call that fault or let? It is our job out there to call those faults and lets, because we are not counting on the numbers, but we are protecting the players from making those faults. And we also try to keep the match as fair as possible to everyone, because you know the fault to one is the point to another. Why do you to give that point to the other one who deserves it? So you need to do that. Number 14, be able to correct an error and recover from it. So do we see some kind of video material?
Yes, it is Bert that proposed to show this video because he's the umpire and something is happening. So Christians, if you can go to minute 44 and 30 seconds in this link.
Okay.
Thank you. Bert, I don't know if you're still online.
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, there I see your cam again. So
So this was at the World Championships in Glasgow. It was a semi-final mixed doubles. First game won by the Chinese. Second game is 18-19 at Cox.
What could you do with a metal 3D printer? Introducing the Metal X.
this is the advertising before
Yes.
showing the yeah. Jim, see that you have a good memory. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, well, he's Scottish and he was there.
Yeah.
And it's
See, he gives it
18-19.
away already.
It's 18-19 in the second game, and the English are actually serving to stay in the match.
Was that clock serving 18-19? He's gone wide.
We don't see it.
Okay.
We hear the noise, we don't see the video.
What are you doing?
And now?
No.
No share ekran. No share ekran.
Well, I think the umpire that's too late. No, too late. Oh my God! Umpire's called it in.
Can we go back?
Yes, 14 there, perfect. Yeah. No,
14-30.
14:30, 44:30. Yeah, perfect there.
Yeah.
Is the Chinese
Okay.
would be a little fearful.
Will you
So-
take it over? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, just to what the mistake is that I focused on the front service line, and all of a sudden I all forgot about there's another line as well, the center service line. So that's the major screw up that I made. That's pretty obvious. And I got just into the tunnel vision where I only looked at that front service line. And of course, players celebrate, and for me it's in because I was looking at the line judge from the front service line, and he was of course pointing in. The problem was not there, and I called 19-all. Now that's the moment where of course the Chinese realize that I've done something pretty weird, and they start protesting, and they call for a challenge. And of course, that's way too late. So I'm still in my rhythm of no, the challenge is too late. It's still 19-all. So what triggered me to realize that there's something going wrong, it's when Zheng started pointing at the center line, and then the alarm bell went pretty loud. And I looked at the line judge who finished his call. He already crossed his arms again and made the sign again, like, yeah, I called it out. And of course, I'm still at that point at a moment where I can say, no, I can correct this. This is not about me overruling. This is about me making a mistake. And yes, it's not the most happy moment in your life, but you can still correct it. This, of course, makes Chris come to the chair and says, yes, but you made your decision. And I can understand that he says that because that's basically what they expect umpires to do. So I explained to him, yeah, but I made a mistake and I can still correct it. Which is actually nice to mention as well, is that at that point, Gabby came to the chair as well, like, yeah, Chris, we know it. So they moved on. So the problem there was solved. It doesn't make me look good, but well, we're in a point, and that was maybe the most interesting part, is where I realized, hold on, this error changed 19-all to 20 match point 18. I don't have the time there to start crying about myself and my poor me, because, well, the next moment it might be finished and then we might have a big discussion as well. So you have to get in there right away. Don't live in the past. You have to move on. And this was maybe the extreme situation where you have to move on because it made it match point. But it got to 20 all anyway. So if you don't stick there and be blunt to yourself, yes, you screwed up, but you don't want to screw up the rest of the match. And that's what I hope I did. I looked at it afterwards as well, because of course I was not happy with it. And for me, the most important thing was how much time it took for me to realize that I made a mistake. And I think that was my heaviest disappointment, that to my opinion, it took too much time. I should have been quicker. So yes, I did correct it. And yes, I continued the match, but it could have been a bit quicker as well. All right.
Thank you, Bert.
You recovered from it, so that's what is important. Yeah, immediate recovery. That was good.
What I wanted to comment as well was also that you said that it didn't make you look good. I think it made you look really good, that you still corrected yourself after this time and you still went on with the correct solution there, and you took the blame, so-called, and you went on with it, and you didn't decide the match.
One more interesting thing was, and that's something I will look into with other umpires as well. When you're getting under pressure, try to get your view as wide as possible, because a lot of us will just look at the problem. The problem there was a Chinese player who was protesting, and that's where my problem was. And all of a sudden, I was not looking at the other side. That was the other big mistake I made. I was not looking at the other side where my service judge colleague from Canada was like waving at me like, hey, Bert, I got your solution here because you made the wrong decision. So he was trying to really draw attention, but I was in my limited vision at that point, and I all forgot about my colleague. So that was the other mistake I made. And once I solved the problem, I saw him sitting him again, and he was still waiting there like, yeah, why didn't you use me? So that was my other mistake that I made. So again, if you make a mistake, don't forget there's somebody on the other side who will gladly help you. All right?
Yeah, but again, in which year it was?
17.
2017. And I must say that that was not common that the service judge will stand up and cross the court, because I think that was the perfect time to do that. What do you think?
Actually, during that World Championships, there was a moment where I actually stood up and went to the other side to help the umpire who lost the score. So you can do it, but it was not very common at that time. But it was not that he did not try to draw my attention. He's never, well, nowadays we would say, yes, you can stand up. But I think at that point, the service judge was not to blame whatsoever. I was just me being at that moment in a tunnel vision.
What I have seen in this chat group, that is really the case where service judge has to intervene nowadays. This is exactly the obvious mistake that Sven was talking about earlier. And yes, you can correct yourself. You can correct anything that you have said wrong, because sometimes it happens even that your brain doesn't cooperate with your mouth. You say things that you actually didn't mean, so you can correct yourself. Just be sure that the right outcome in the match is coming out, that you are not changing the course of the match with your not correcting yourself or being too ashamed or being afraid of what is going on when I'm correcting myself.
Maybe because it's not a point of fact issue. Zheng was being between the shuttle and me because it was a center line. So it's not even a question of point of fact. It was just me completely forgetting about the other line judge. Okay, he didn't shout out, he only pointed out. That didn't help, but that doesn't excuse me for not looking at the line judge. So yeah, it was me screwing up. That was pretty obvious. I think everyone.
That's obvious to everybody now. Yes. So thank you, Bert. Okay, let's Let's move to the last 7 ones. I will be a bit quicker, trying to end at 19:30, and if you still have some questions that we can ask them. Show ability to maintain concentration throughout a match. Well, I can tell you we are almost 2 hours ongoing now. Concentration must have dropped with all of you. Yeah, because you have to know that you lose concentration every 15, 20 minutes. So that's a fact. And so if it's happening in a match, you will know that it will happen. So make yourself aware that you will lose at some moment concentration. But try to define and to find out for yourself when you are losing concentration, yeah, so that you can maintain it. This is something you can train, and you have to discover by yourself whether you have the same concentration during all the match, yeah, knowing that you lose sometimes your concentration. So alertness is the word that we need to use here. You need to be alert all over the match. What we have seen in the video that we just had the explanation about, well, this is also maybe due to a drop of concentration. Yeah. Just forgetting that there are 2 line judges, but this small moment can make, yeah, that you're not alert enough and that you lose concentration. So it is important, and for every match, and it is important to the players that you're concentrated and that you do your job. Show the ability to present a match. We had it already about the announcements, about the toss. So this is the first impression that you have, but it's also presenting a match. It's the first part of presenting a match. And a lot of people, and also in normal life, 80% of what you think about a person is made about this first impression. So if you think that this umpire has made a very good presentation or a good presentation, well, you will go in that flow and think he's a good umpire, he's doing a good job. If you think he's not doing it good or he's doubting, then it will for the rest of the match. So, but you have to show the ability to present. And we are not saying that you have to count the score. No, yeah, it is how you are sitting in the chair, how you are announcing what Bert also said with the voice. And there you have verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication, we all know in presentation, but non-verbal communication is even more important sometimes to do it with a signal or like this. You all know this picture of me on the BWF website. I think, well, yeah, verbal communication you can do. You can raise your voice also to say something to the players and be sure they know what is going on. But presenting is also to the audience. It is in the announcement, not looking down, as Bert said before, and especially not putting yourself in the spotlight by doing, first of all, stupid things, or by taking attention from the crowd to you and not to the players. Because if this happens, it's not good. You will have done a good match as an umpire when the audience says, well, this was a good match. We haven't seen the umpire. Well, then the umpire will have presented and have done a good match, in my opinion. Being capable of being involved with proceedings on court without being officious. Yeah, there are a lot of proceedings that are going on during your match. Yeah, it can be the shuttle that need to be changed. It must be the coaches, how they're behaving. Are they sitting there in the right thing? So you have to keep everything under control. All these proceedings that are going around your court, yeah, and also a bit of match control and court management, but without being officious. Not starting to be a street fighter in your chair because something is happening that you don't like and that you take it personal. No, certainly not. Yeah, you do the procedures and the proceedings as you know from the ITTOs, and never take something personal. I think we discussed some of those issues already in the first webinar, so it is quite important that you know what is going on your court. If I go to number 18, demonstrate awareness and feeling for the game and show the ability to control the game. Well, let me start by demonstrate awareness. I think that when there is an assessment or an appraisal, all of you as umpires, yeah, you know where the assessor is. So we know that you can be aware of your surroundings, not only what is going on your court. Yeah. So it is exactly the same, an eye contact with the referee, being aware of what is going on. And so Bert, when we were preparing it yesterday, and he's using it also during his courses, well, he said, or he mentioned the circle of control. When you start your umpiring, well, then you will look at the court and at the players. And then suddenly you receive a service judge. So it's an element in addition that you have to look at and to control, because then you have to work as a team. And then they are putting line judges. Oh, so it changes again. The coaches are there, so it's going broader. And then you have broadcast, television. Oh, I need to take also this into consideration. And so you go broader and broader. You have a small audience, you have a big audience. How do you cope with that? Then also, where is the referee? Even during big and difficult matches, your eye contact during a match, showing with the referee, shows if you are able to control the game. So it's normal that as a young umpire with not that much experience, that your circle of control is not that big. It will go wider with your experience. You will feel more comfortable, and you will have a much bigger overview. Yeah, taking into consideration all these people at once, and you will feel even better. So in this one, it is important to understand this circle of control. You have also the feeling for the game. I think it is obvious. I take some examples. One that happened in Liévin European Championships, a player that lost his game, putting or throwing his racket in the air 3 meters high, trying to take it, and the racket he cannot. He misses the racket, and he missed the racket and fell at 1 meter on the ground. Yeah. The first thing we see the umpire do is giving a yellow card, a warning to the player. Well, if you give for that match where it was a good match, it was a nice understanding with the players, nothing happened during the complete match, and then you lose the match and you just throw, you try to catch it and it falls even on your side of the net, and you apologize immediately, and then you are called by the umpire and you receive a warning. I don't think this is a good example of feeling for the game. The next ones are the service judge related things. Be consistent in identifying and calling service faults. I think Iris also had this in the number 13, yeah, as an umpire being consistent. Well, here you have exactly the same. As a service judge, I will not go much more into detail. You need to be consistent. Yeah? And if you give one fault and you see exactly the same, then you have to give the fault again. This is what we call consistency. I know we have the fixed service height for most tournaments, for all European circuit tournaments, including the juniors from semifinals. We don't have them on the -17, -15 tournaments. However, yeah, every time be consistent. And what you receive, the fixed service height tool, I think, in my opinion, it made our work easier. Because before you had an imaginary line, and now you have a line that you can see. So it will make our calls more consistent. And it will make the calls not only from you as an umpire, but from the whole group of technical officials serving as a service judge will make it more consistent. And this is really important for our group, consistency, because this is what players look at, what coaches are looking at, referees, audience, and especially television. As a service judge, show a willingness to assist the umpire in any situation if required. Also there we had some examples. Bert gave some about those. It must be obvious and it must be major into a match if you are coming up. Yeah. I take another example. It happened last year at the Belgian International. I was service judging, and there was a shuttle going up at the net, and both players were standing with their racket there, but none of them dared to hit the shuttle because they didn't know at what side of the net the shuttle was. So it was hit like this, straight up the net, and so they were standing there. It was as if the image was frozen, so it was quite funny. So I was sitting and I was looking where the shuttle was falling, and then I looked at my umpire, and then this umpire also doubted. The umpire couldn't take a decision, and so the players were looking at the umpire, and then you can feel the pressure. And this umpire had the good reflex. This umpire looked at me and said, "Have you seen? Because I doubt." I said, "Yes." So I walked to the chair, I turned around and I said, "Shuttle fell on this side of the net." "Okay, thank you." And the players, "Huh? Okay, thank you." So she announced the score and it was done. So again, a situation where I was asked by the umpire to assist. Yeah, but you need to have this reflection to work as a team on your court. So that's important. However, and this was said already before, you have to pay attention to one thing. Don't make the service judge decision the first decision. I hope you all understand this. It is that if you have a reaction as a service judge, and players will see this, and it goes right the opposite way of what the umpire is saying, well, then the players will pay attention to this, to the umpire, and maybe the decision of the service judge will become the decision. So never put your umpire in a bad situation as this. Yeah. So only if it's major, obvious, or when you're asked by your umpire to intervene. Bert, do you want to say something more about this or not?
No, I'm fine.
Excuse me,
Okay.
to ask something. How many
Yes.
faults a service judge can call for in the match?
Well, is this a technical question or a pragmatic question? Because
technically, because
a technical question, it can be 21-19, so it's 40 faults, and for every game. So, but this is not the answer you're looking for, huh? Hey?
No, because consistently the player was making the same mistake every
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So I was forced to call for a fault because it was an obvious fault of feet. So
Yeah.
I had to call.
Yeah.
But at times I was feeling that it is becoming so consistent by player that each stroke I have to call fault. I mean, that was quite uh, distracting me, that how can a player very at good level in semi-finals can make consistent faults.
Well, or maybe the player is making consistent fault and all the others haven't seen it, or you are making a consistent fault by calling the foot fault. But I don't know the situation, so I will not go more into detail. However, if this is happening really badly, when it are the juniors or even younger, you can coach this player and his coach if he has any. And also in calling 1 out of 5 faults that you are not interfering completely with the match, it can also be consistent by calling 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5 faults. You see,
Yeah.
this can also be consistent.
I had a talk with the same match with the referee, and he said yes, it was fault. Player was consistently making fault. So at the end, I made the right decisions, but still I had a question because this is a time that we are learning. So I thought it is the right time to ask.
Well, was it a BEC circuit tournament?
It was MOT Junior.
The what?
Israel. It was in 2019 MOT Israel tournament.
Okay, yeah, but at Israeli and junior, so we were in a junior tournament. So I think it's also one of the tasks, but we haven't spoken about it so far. It's also one of the tasks if you are with those juniors, that it's important that we also have a coaching role for some things. Yeah, once they go into the real circuit, that it will be that they will no longer make this mistake. So this is an education part that we have. I think, yeah. So and if you were the only one giving those foot faults, okay, but if it has been recorded, then we could look at it. But I don't think it was recorded at the MOT Junior.
I want to add it in here. If it was in a junior tournament, after 5 faults, I would have called the player and I would have explained the fault he's making, just to keep, because obviously he didn't understand what he was doing wrong. Apparently he got really nervous and anxious, and he was like looking with a face that I don't understand what she's wanting from me. So again, even as a service judge's chair, make clear that the player knows what do you want from them. And this is also, if you just keep on calling the fault and he doesn't or she doesn't understand what the fault is, you are going to call those faults forever, and it's not helping anyone.
Yeah, thank
maybe,
you. I clearly made a sign of a feet fault, and it was a feet fault. Player was moving with every stroke. So that's the reason.
Maybe addressing just one part of this situation, because like Sven said, I haven't seen the foot faults or whatever. So, but that's not important for me. If I have a service judge who starts calling this many service faults, me as an umpire, that triggers me as well. Yeah. So there should have been already a lot of eye contact between umpire and service judge, like, what are you doing? Are you really sure? And if that's the case, I would definitely call the player to my chair to explain why he's getting faulted all the time. Because you have the sign, of course, a lot of players don't know those signs, so we need to protect them. And of course, now with the extra vocabulary, we will announce service fault called foot. But then again, I would call him to my chair. I would say, well, apparently you continue to do it, stop doing it. And during the interval, again, you can have a conversation with your service judge, or you can even start talking, especially at juniors, to the coach, because you want to solve that problem. It's not good if he keeps being called all the time. So as an umpire, not as a service judge, you can handle the situation. All right.
Yeah, so this is pragmatic, and sorry that I don't know who I'm interrupting.
Sven, there is 2 raised hands. Fabio Beto was the first one. He was long.
Okay.
Fabio.
Yeah, he's this Italian from Germany, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Right. Okay. No, it more than questions, a couple of observations, just to add something on a couple of points. About, as I saw, there were some questions also in the chat about the use of the correct vocabulary. basically the standard vocabulary assures, in my opinion, that at least you deliver the correct communication, provided that you deliver the right sentence of that. What I mean is that you can also use different wording or different phrasing for that, but you have to be sure that they will understand you. To be on the safe side, you use the standard vocabulary, and then eventually you add something if you observe that your communication is not completely understood. Also, we need to think about junior players or eventually players coming from countries where English is not the native language. The use of the standard vocabulary at least assures that no players can come after you and say, I didn't get your message, because it is in the standard vocabulary that which everybody should eventually use and use as a term of reference also for coaches and players. And my second observation is that there is a new document who came out quite recently, a few days ago. You can find it on the BWF website, which is called the Guidelines for Umpire Assessors. It's a document that has been made by BWF, and all those who are interested and want to improve as umpire, but also the experienced umpires can use as kind of a checklist of what the assessors or those who will appraise you will see about your performance. Of course, it's made for the highest standards, I understand, but still it is technical points or presentation points that each assessor at every level should watch about you. So it is a very, very nice document. It's really nicely done. It's just 2-3 pages, and you can find it on the BWF website in the technical official section and umpires. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio, for your intervention.
There was also another raised hand from David.
David, go ahead.
David.
Okay, hi, it's me. I have a case. What happened if the service judge is being insulted by coach, and then we try to communicate with the umpire, and also give some sign, but the umpire didn't get what I meant. And should we go directly to the umpire when the play is when the shuttle is not in play, or we can call also to the umpire to the referee?
I would go straight away. If a player walks up to me, I'm service judging, he would call me the most beautiful words that they can use. Then if that's not heard by the umpire, I will go to the umpire and tell him what happened.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
And that's not only during the rallies or during the intervals. It can also happen before or after the match.
Ah, okay.
All right.
So we can stop. So we can give a sign to the umpire, so that the umpire can stop the match, and then we'll go.
If it's already obvious for the umpire, he will take care of it himself.
Okay.
But when he missed on that part, because this is about behavior that needs to be handled.
Yeah, I specialize for the young umpire like me. So some coaches, maybe they noticed for well, maybe they will to try to take advantage, to the young umpires. So
yeah,
that's what I felt, So
yeah. Oh, if they're saying things that are not allowed, then report it.
Yeah. Okay. It was really insulting, anyways.
All right.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one more question we received from our YouTube chat, because as we know, a lot of people are watching us also on YouTube. There is no public information about the new thing that like BWF semi-pro umpires. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I think we have 2 semi-pros, and no, the 3 semi-pros are present. So I know who they are, but I think that it's more appropriate that one of the 3 will say something. Up to you guys, or lady.
What I can say is that We are no spokesman for BWF. So BWF has announced the semi-pros, the situations that we have, or the contracts that we have with BWF. This is between us, and there's nothing really very special going on. It's just doing the same thing, but having a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more duties to do than normal umpire. We are, as any umpire in any tournament, treated the same way and doing the same job like any other umpire. Besides that, we have some extra duties, like we supposed to do some of those coachings and teaching. This is what we do. Nothing special, no big secret.
Just to be sure, it is a new thing, so not everything has been set out. This will be a evolving project, but we're the nutcases at this moment that they found who were able to spend a little bit more time. But also for us, it's still a test. Can we combine it with our normal professional life? That's, well, it's a little bit of a jump in the dark. And yeah, well, we're the nutcases who were fortunate or lucky, how you can call it, to do it. And let's see how it works out. Maybe in half a year, I have to say, well, my employer doesn't like me being so much away, or I can't combine it, or I can't get it organized, and I have to stop doing it. But at least I want to try, and let's see where it ends.
Fabio?
Yes, yeah, no, just a few more words, and it's exactly like Iris said, there is absolutely no difference from all the other umpires, and we were just asked to provide a more constant availability to the highest level, and of course we will evaluate the situation, and we were also asked to represent BWF in a more official way during what can be a workshop or seminars and some other minor works, but absolutely there is no difference of any treatment of any value with all the other umpires and technical officials around the world. So.
There was a question in the chat: is it paid?
Well, we have a contract which covers, of course, and because it's still semi, but still professional. It is, it's a kind of half and half, and there is a minimum of requirements as your availability, which is a minimum of, at the moment, 10 weeks of your year. Divided into tournaments, minimum of 10 weeks divided into tournaments and other works, which can be side works like seminars or other activities. And also we can be asked to have more tournaments on that. So, but still it is, yes, we are paid, but it is a semi-professional. So this is to answer the question.
You have another one from Arthur, I see.
Oh, and also from Jim. No, Jim, it's not well. It's paid.
So, despite on that, you participate in the program, but let's answer the Arthur's question, please.
Well, I can answer to that. Actually, our contracts were supposed to start at the 1st of April. But due to the postponement of the tournaments, our contract has been postponed as well. So as it looks now, we will only start at the 1st of September.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bert. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, I think it's logical. I mean, BWF is having the same problems as all other companies in the world. And of course, if we would have started at 1st of April, we would have been a cost without actually working. And that's not the kind of service I want to give to BWF.
Okay, thank you for this those questions. And then the number 21. It's a nice card game, I think, playing 21. Work as a team off court. It's quite clear that you have to work as a team on court, but also off court. is important. Yeah, there are not only umpires, there is also the tournament organizer. There are the referees. There are representatives from Badminton Europe or from the World Federation, the national organizers that will be present, stakeholders, sponsors, whatever. So also, I will not say that you will work with stakeholders, but the referee, you will also work as a team off court and also with your friends, with your colleagues, umpires. Call them how you want. Yeah, if you go only on court and once the tournament is finished and you go into your room, okay, yeah, you can have some work, but just try to be into the group and to learn things. Yeah, I think a lot of the umpires are social animals, so they like to stick together and to experience a lot of things, especially when you're abroad. Yeah, so don't stay in your room, but also work as a team off court. So this was the last term of reference. We are looking, I don't know if there are questions. Before that, I would like to wrap up.
Now, Jimmy has a comment to you. Look at the chat.
What?
And while Sven is looking, okay,
yes,
the floor is yours.
Yes, indeed. It's not yet an official decision, but it will be on the agenda of the Eurium TUC, as a lot of the tournaments have been postponed, and we have such thing named record of work. We will suspend the minimum duties per year that you will need. Yeah, so we will freeze your activities for 2020, and we will look again to 2019. But if you didn't receive an email or you were okay with your record of work, 2 tournaments and a minimum 40 matches within Badminton Europe, well, then it's okay. This is what we discussed already informally, but now it's becoming formal because we still have an audience of in the 90 people. So don't be stressed about your record of work for Badminton Europe this year. I see also BWF. Iris answered it well.